Do you ever feel like you're busy all day, but you don't get any of the important work done? And the more you grow, the busier you get and the more your business depends on you. Well, that used to be me as well, until I built this prioritization system that shows me exactly what to work on and how to make time for it every single day. And it hasn't just worked for me. I've helped countless 6, 7 and 8-figure business owners build this system so that they can scale in just a few hours a day, whilst their business depends less on them. So in this video, I'm going to show you that exact system so you never have to worry about working all day but not getting to the important stuff or not making the progress that you want to make ever again. So one of the reasons you can't prioritize is because you're playing the wrong game. Because most entrepreneurs are trying to prioritize inside a broken understanding of what they're trying to do with their business. And yes, I get that that sounds rather abstract, so let me explain. But look, if you're trying to grow your business, prioritizing is going to be very hard because growth is resource driven, okay? It's all about more volume, more hours, more output, more effort. It's about doing more and more. And when that's your frame, you subconsciously choose tasks that feel productive because they're quick, easy to check off and give you that dopamine hit so that you can do more and more and sort of feel like you're doing the right thing because you're doing loads. But because those tasks are easy, they're low value and they rarely move the needle. So your business doesn't actually get anywhere. And this is why prioritizing feels so hard. Because if you're still in growth mode, your brain is essentially wired to value speed and motion, not leverage and output. So you need to stop trying to grow your business and instead you need to scale your business because scaling is about leverage, okay? It's not about how much you do. It's about doing the right things that create disproportionate results. And once you understand that, the question shifts from how do I get more done to what's worth doing at all. Now, once you realize you're scaling, not growing, the way you prioritize changes completely because like I said, scaling is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. It's about working on the 5% of tasks that move the 95% of results. And yet most entrepreneurs are stuck in the inverse, reacting to whatever's loudest, newest, or most broken today. You know, you open your laptop in the morning thinking you'll get some real work done, but then a Slack message comes in, a client requests a tweak, a team member needs just 5 minutes. And before you know it, it's 5 p.m. That one really important task you wanted to get done today still isn't done. And this happens day after day for months, only for you to wake up realizing, oh, I've been working, but I haven't got anywhere. And this is exactly why we need a system for prioritization, not a to-do list, not a productivity hack, a real system that ensures the most important work always gets done. So here's the model that I teach to my clients at selfmastery.co. Links in the description, by the way, if you want to redesign your business to run without you. But essentially what you have to understand is that every task in your business falls into one of 3 categories. The first category is your non-negotiables. You see, as you're aware, not all tasks are created equal and not all priorities are actually priorities. If you want to scale your business in just a few hours a day, you need to start treating your non-negotiables like sacred ground because these are the tasks that directly determine whether your business grows or whether it flatlines and maybe even declines. And really, when you think about it, a business only needs 2 things. It needs something to sell and someone to sell it to. So that means you only need 3 tasks. You need a marketing task to get leads, people to know you exist, a sales task to turn leads into customers, and a fulfillment task to deliver what you sell, your product or service. Think about it, okay? Because if you only did those 3 tasks, would your business still run and grow? Yes, it would. But if you stopped doing any of those 3 tasks, would your business still grow? Heck no, it wouldn't even run for too long before it started to fall apart. So these 3 tasks are your non-negotiables, okay? But not all 3 are created equal. Most business owners think, well, I have to serve clients and I have to close deals and I have to post content, so I'll just juggle them all and hope for the best. But here's the thing. In terms of scaling, only one of these tasks actually brings in new opportunity. So think about it, okay? Fulfillment doesn't grow the business. And yes, disclaimer, it is super important, arguably the most important thing in business because if your product or service is crap, well, nothing else matters, okay? But still, it doesn't grow the business because to grow or scale the business, you need more customers. And yes, you can also increase LTV of each customer, but depending on your business, that might be very possible or incredibly hard. So really, to generalize, we need to say that we need more customers, which means you need more leads. And how do you get more leads? Well, you do more or better marketing. Because without it, nothing else matters. Because without marketing, there are no leads to sell to, no clients to fulfill, there's no revenue. Okay, so I had a past client who came to me, they're running a 100K a month business, $1 million a year, working 10 to 12 hours a day, constantly slammed with client work. And they were great at what they did, okay? They produced amazing results. But the revenue was flat for 6 months. Why? Well, because marketing had become the thing he got to if he had the time. And because he had so much client work, he never had the time, okay? Because he was just spending so much time in fulfillment. Now, he had a recurring revenue model, so his business stayed still at that 100K a month, but it didn't grow because he didn't have more leads coming in. So we flipped it. We made marketing his number one non-negotiable. So in terms of prioritizing, your non-negotiables are your number one priority, okay? Because without them, you do not have a business. But marketing comes first. And unless it's delegated, it is your top priority because marketing is what feeds the system, okay? And since it's your number one priority, it has to be done first in the day when your willpower, energy, and focus are highest. If you leave it till later, it just won't happen. And this isn't me giving you some motivational quote. This is a behavioral pattern I've noticed working with top entrepreneurs. Now, sales is obviously super important too, because, well, depending on your business, you might need sales calls to convert leads to customers. So obviously, you need sales. If you sell something that someone can just buy from a website without you doing any specific sales task, like a sales call or proposal or whatever, then you don't really have a sales task. So that's good. But if you do have one, then sales is obviously crucial, but it should not control your day. If you're taking sales calls, batch them, okay? Don't let them break up your flow or hijack your mornings, because then you don't have the time to do the marketing work and all the rest that actually gets you calls booked so that you can take your sales calls. So I always recommend no calls before 12 p.m. Don't panic, however. I will actually show you in a minute how to structure your entire day to help you follow and prioritize all these things. But anyway, we then have fulfillment, which, yes, fulfillment is important. It's crazy important, but it does not grow the business. And I get it. It feels productive. It feels responsible. You're serving clients. You're delivering what you promised. But fulfillment is like brushing your teeth. It is essential, but it's not the thing that scales you to the next level. So, of course, if you are a coach or consultant or something else, you might be in your delivery sessions yourself. That's fine. But fulfillment should be the first area you design and delegate out of your calendar. Okay. You build systems, you hire support, you delegate where you can, because the more time you spend in delivery, the less time you have to grow the machine. Now, obviously, if you're doing fulfillment yourself, I would recommend doing it after marketing, okay, and then delegate it ASAP, because as a business owner, your job is not to do the work, it is to build the machine that does the work. Now, if your non-negotiables are like the fuel to your business, okay, the thing that keeps the engine running, then there are certain tasks that are the upgrades to the business, the new engine, the new suspension, the one-time moves that make the business better and scale exponentially. See, these are the project and ideas you have that you likely start but never finish. Like, I had a client come to me once doing mid 6 figures, team of 12, great product, but his weeks were spent firefighting, doing admin, approvals, chasing updates, all these things. When I asked him, what's the one strategic project that, if finished, would 10x your business over the next year? He paused, and it wasn't because he didn't have one, but because he had one and hadn't touched it in 3 months, which I see all the time, okay? And that's the problem. These strategic actions, as we call them at selfmastery.co, they don't shout, they don't ping you, they don't break, okay? Which is why they get ignored. Simple. But they're how you make the big leaps and keep the business moving forward all the time in an exponential fashion. So here is how we treat them, okay? Once your non-negotiables are done, or if you have them delegated, strategic actions become your number one priority, not admin, not emails, not updates, okay? Just one focused project that actually moves the business forward. Now, obviously what this could be is really dependent on your business. It depends on your bottlenecks, your goals, etc. It could be building a new system to remove yourself from fulfillment. It could be rebuilding your onboarding to reduce churn. It could be hiring that key employee that you've been putting off for months, or it could be restructuring your core offer to create a higher leverage offer that takes you out of fulfillment. Whatever it is, it's a thing that if you do once, it creates exponential impact. And typically these strategic actions should be your rocks, which are essentially your 90-day goals for the business. This is something I go over in more detail in a past video. So if you want to know how to set goals in your business and ensure everyone on your team and you moves towards these goals every single day, I will leave a link to that video at the end of this one. Make sure you check it out. Now, you want to work in this project in your strategic action window, which I'll show you in a minute exactly where to fit that into your day. But of course, in your day, you still have other things to do and random things pop up, but here's the thing. Not everything is urgent and not everything is important. But if you treat it all like it is, you'll never do the things that actually grow your bloody business. And what I see all the time, and I lived it myself, is that most business owners sit down with the intention to finally work on the important stuff in the business, and then boom, Slack goes off, team members are stuck, a Stripe payment fails, a client needs just a quick call, and suddenly it's 3 p.m. You've been reacting all day again. And now don't get me wrong, these problems feel important. They feel like you're doing something useful, but they rarely move the business forward. They just maintain what already exists. And here's what it's even worse, okay? The longer you wait to do the real work, the harder it gets, okay? Because your energy drops, your focus scatters, and the work that should have felt exciting in the morning, the important work, is now overwhelming by 4 p.m. And so what happens? Well, you push it to tomorrow. You're too tired. Then next week. Then next quarter, and the thing that was supposed to free you from the business becomes a thing you never actually built. And these tasks, be it admin work, emails, or solving problems and fires, are your third type of task. They're everything else. And guess what? Prioritizing is as simple as doing what is important before everything else, because, well, it's more important than everything else, okay? It's pretty logical. So you see all these tasks that fall into everything else. Well, you don't do them before 12 p.m. You don't even think about them or look at them before 12 p.m. Or I'll come to your house and shout at you. I won't, but seriously, you block your mornings for the work that matters, okay? It's that simple. Your marketing, which is a non-negotiable, your strategic action project, and your fulfillment if you're still doing it. Everything else can wait, because look, here's the truth, okay? Most problems, and I mean 99.99999%, are not catastrophic. Most issues can wait a few hours, and if they can't, it means you don't have a problem. You have a broken system, which, by the way, is exactly what we help you fix inside selfmastery.co. But when a business constantly pulls you into emergencies, that's not a sign that they're important problems and need dealt with now. It's a sign that you're still the glue holding everything together, and that glue is starting to crack. So here's how you handle the everything else bucket. After 12 p.m. or whatever time you finish your marketing task, strategic action task, and fulfillment work, you look at everything else you have to do today, which should be all small or unimportant tasks or problems and fires that have popped up throughout the day. You ask yourself, do any of these tasks or fires pose like a real risk that needs dealt with ASAP? If yes, you do those tasks or fires first. If no, you see if any of the tasks or fires have a deadline. If they do, you do the one with the closest deadline first. If they don't, then just choose one of them and do it. Okay, it's that simple, okay? You just choose a task and do it and start, and then just do the next one, okay? Because if none of them pose some serious risk and aren't more important, and none of them have a deadline, it doesn't really matter what you do first, okay? Unless they're relevant to specific goals of your business that I could not possibly know in a YouTube video, in which case you'll have to use some common sense and critical thinking. Otherwise, just choose a bloody task, okay? And look, sure, this might mean you need to change how you run your business, which, by the way, systems will help with. But how can you expect things to change and for you to actually work on the things that grow the business if you do not make a change, okay? If you want change, make a change. And that discomfort you're feeling at the idea of making a change, that is the cost of growth. You cannot keep doing things the same way and expect the business to magically scale itself. You can't build a high leverage, self-running company by prioritizing low leverage, unpredictable tasks. Prioritizing isn't about color-coded planners or some fancy software. It is about discipline and structure. It's about doing what matters most first. And look, if you want your business to grow without depending on you, your day needs to reflect that decision, because it won't happen by accident. In your calendar, how you spend your time will dictate whether it happens or not. Like, one of my past clients runs a service business, lean team, super talented business owner, etc. But he was exhausted. He was working 10 to 12 hours a day, felt like he was always behind. So we audited his calendar and it was bloody chaos. Sales calls were scattered throughout the day. Fulfillment work was dropped in whenever he had the space, and strategic projects or actions were non-existent. And marketing was something he usually tried to do on Thursday. And he couldn't figure out why he was working more but making the same money. So we rebuilt the week. We gave each task its proper place, and within weeks he was working 5 hours a day, revenue had increased, and most importantly, he had space to finally work on the business again. This is the power of structure, okay? It doesn't just create focus, it creates freedom. So here's an example daily structure based on all the prioritization theory that we've covered so far. First in your day, you do non-negotiable number 1, which is marketing. So if it is still on your plate and you haven't delegated it, it gets done first, because this is the lifeblood of your business, so it gets prioritized first every single day, no exception. Secondly, you work on the next step of your strategic action. Whether you do 90 minutes or 4 hours, depends on your business and what work you have to do, but work on this second every single day until marketing is delegated, if you choose to delegate it, in which case the strategic action then becomes number 1 priority. This is what moves your business forward and creates asymmetric growth in the long run, whether it's the system you're building, the offer you're refining, or the key hire that you're vetting. Thirdly, you work on fulfillment. Now, this does depend on your business and there can be nuance as to when you do your fulfillment work. But let me be clear, most business owners should not be doing fulfillment long term. Because remember, yes, it is important, but it doesn't grow the business and someone else can almost always do it just as well as you, if not better than you. So if you're still doing fulfillment and it takes hours every day, then that is your bottleneck. It has to be systemized and delegated if you want to scale, because otherwise you'll never have the time and bandwidth to work on the marketing or strategic action tasks that actually scale the business. That said, depending on your business, if you love doing what you do, or if there's a way to make the delivery more high leverage, say you're a coach or a consultant, you can keep it in your schedule. After all, it is your business. Do whatever you want. This is just my advice. Take it with a grain of salt if you choose to. But realize if you want the business to scale, you will need to eventually step out or significantly reduce your involvement or restructure your fulfillment to be higher leverage. But this really depends on your business. The fourth thing you work on then is your sales task, if you have one. Now, sales is obviously critical, but here's the key. If you as a business owner are still doing your sales tasks, don't let it fracture your day. Schedule all sales calls or proposal work or however it looks for you after 12 p.m. Okay, protect your morning for your marketing, your strategic work and your fulfillment, because without these, you won't have sales work to do. Okay, so work on them first. And obviously in the long term, you want to delegate sales stuff. And once you do that, that sales rep can be doing sales all day, not just after 12 p.m. obviously, as that's their job. But if you're doing sales, you obviously need to do it after 12 p.m. so that you have the time to do the work that gets you the sales work to do. Pretty logical. Now, whether you delegate your sales or fulfillment work first really depends on your time investment. If sales takes 5 hours a day and fulfillment takes 1 hour a day, then delegate sales first. If fulfillment eats up your calendar more than sales work, delegate fulfillment first. And of course, there can obviously be nuance as to when you do your sales depending on your business, but if you can get your marketing, strategic action and fulfillment work done before 12, then only do sales calls and sales work after 12. If you can only get your marketing and strategic work done before 12, not your fulfillment work, then whether you do fulfillment work before sales will depend on how much of each task you have to do that day. So you will need to use a bit of common sense and critical thinking here, but you're smart. You can do that, okay? And then finally, work on everything else, okay? So once that important stuff is done, then you can deal with what popped up. Emails, fire, admin work, or whatever other tasks that you have to do that day. But even this should be contained into a block of time, okay? So say from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., you do all of those other tasks, or 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., really depending on your specific day and your specific tasks. Essentially, just have a block of time at the end of your workday to deal with all the unimportant stuff that comes up and still needs done. If you build your day around this structure consistently, you will always move the business forward because you're prioritizing what moves the business forward and you regain control of your time. Plus, once you lock in this structure, the math becomes pretty simple. 1 to 2 hours a day goes to marketing until you choose to delegate it if you do choose to. 1 to 2 hours goes to your strategic action, your highest leverage project, and that's your 4-hour workday. And even those things you can delegate so your business can run without you if you choose for that to happen. But the rest in terms of fulfillment, sales, admin, etc., obviously right now you might have to do it and you're not able to work 4 hours a day. But over time, you can delegate them until you can work 4 hours a day and your business can run itself. And even then, if you want, you can work for 8 hours a day. Great, just double your output. Spend 8 hours in strategic actions. Use this extra time for bigger bets, deep work, or building the systems that remove you from even more areas of the business. But the principle pretty much remains the same. You do your important work first because it's more important. But the only way to ensure that the growth doesn't rely on you sprinting and that it relies on the structure that you've built, over time you delegate fulfillment, you delegate sales, and you install systems that reduce the chaos and make problems rare instead of constant. And when you build your days around your non-negotiables and your strategic actions, when those become the default, not the exception, your business starts to run without you. Now, of course, if you want to understand more about strategic actions and how to set goals for the business that don't get forgotten about and that every team member works on consistently to move the business forward, click this video on screen now and I'll show you exactly that.